adding and subtracting decimals, we've learned strategies for addition and subtraction that work with whole numbers. And what's really important to know is that the rules that apply for whole numbers are the rules that apply for decimals. We just may say them a little bit differently. In the past, you've been told that when you add whole numbers, you should always line them up on the right. You should always line them up in the ones place. And sometimes we just get in the habit of lining them up on the right that we forget the importance of place value. Today we're going to see the importance of that. 14 3/100 plus 12 4/10. It's written in word form because it's really important that we are able to read numbers correctly so that we can place them in the correct columns. This is 14. Because we're going to add 14 3/100, I need to put a 3 in the hundredths place. I'm going to add that to 12 4/10. So I need to put a 4 in the tenths place. 14 3/100 plus 12 4/10. We can line up our colors on this one, and we can see the decimals are in line and each place value matches. And it's easy to see that the answer would be 26 43/100. 26.43. Looking at it on here, 14 3/100 plus 12 4/10. Now, I'm going to introduce you to Decimal Dog in way of a song at the end of this video, but you are always allowed to fill in zeros after a decimal. So place value is the key to successful computation with addition and subtraction. Lining up place value is simple if you always line up the decimals. Now, did we line up the decimals in elementary school when we were adding whole numbers? And the answer is yes. You just simply used an understood decimal. This was your whole number place value chart. There is an understood decimal here. It's just that before you were introduced to something that represented part of a whole, the decimal wasn't necessary. So this is really 175, and if you can see the green ones here have a decimal after them. So this would really be 175 decimal plus 92 decimal. And you can see because I lined them up here, it's wrong. I didn't put my decimals in a straight line. 13 plus 3 7/10. If I wrote those, 13 plus 3 7/10. In order to correctly add these, I wouldn't line up the digits, I would line up the place value. 13 plus 3 7/10. This one I could probably do mentally because I know 13 plus 3 is 16. So this equals 16 7/10. Let's look at some other examples. Estimating to check is going to be one of the most important strategies when you're adding decimals. This one is 14 and this one is 9. You can choose to do 14 plus 9, or you can do 14 plus 10 minus 1. 14 plus 10 is 24, minus 1 is 23. So my estimate is 23. 11 plus 2, my estimate is 13. 857 plus 12, my estimate is 869. 9003 plus 605, or 9,000 plus 605. So let's just say our estimate is 9,605, or 9,608. Remember, when you're estimating, you're picking what's easiest for you. Either one of those are acceptable. So now let's go back and apply the rule. The rule is that you line up the place value. You put the numbers in the ones place, in the ones place. In the number 14, the 4 is in the ones place. In the number 9 and 2500ths, the 9 is. And so, they're both in the ones place. And if I want those extra zeros to help me prove I've lined it up, definitely use them. 23.25. 11.3, 1.69. 12.99 compared to 13. 857, 12.7. 869.7. Lining up our place values, where is the ones place, which is your whole number adding rule. It's just that you have to really pay attention to where the ones place is. 9003, the ones place is right in front of the decimal. And there is an understood decimal at the end of every whole number. Alright, so how does this help us with subtraction? Subtraction has the same rule. We're going to line up the place value. So let's first start by estimating to check. 14 minus 9 is 5. 11 minus 5 is 6. 860 minus 14 isn't something I can do in my head, but 860 minus 10 is 850. 3,678 minus 20 is 3,658. So, now let's solve these, remembering that we have to line up the ones place. In the number 14, the 4 is in the ones place. In 9.25, that is in the ones place. Now, there are a couple options you can use here. Remember, we learned to count up, so we could start at 925 and find the path to get to $14. So perhaps I would say 75 cents, and now I'm at $10. After I'm at $10, I need $4. So my answer is $4.75. Perhaps that's not the strategy that you chose to use, so you chose to fill in your zeros. Filling in your zeros means that you remember the rules to regrouping, and your answer will be the same. 11.3 minus 4.72. Because they're not lined up, I'm going to add the extra 0. $6.58 is the answer. 6 is the estimate. Gotta make some. Alright. Here's your long-awaited song to remember that when you add, you must line up your decimals. Decimal Dog, drawn specially for you, eats and provides unnecessary zeros. In this number, Decimal Dog would eat every number not protected by a decimal or a counting digit. So Decimal Dog might eat this and might eat this. And this number would become 502. Decimal Dog never changes the value of a number, just makes it have less digits. When you add, you must line up your decimals in a straight line. When you add, you must line up your decimals, listen to the song of mine. When you add, you must line up your decimals, and if you're without, ask Decimal Dog to spit one out. Now that you're done rewinding, listening to me sing that song over and over so you'll have something to laugh about in class, push pause and show what you know. Alright, 19 plus 3 2/100. Simply reading that allows me to write it 19 plus 3. That equals 22. So 22 2/100 is my answer. 5.3, 55 and 3/10 minus 12 and 62 hundredths. So I'm going to ask Decimal Dog to spit one out. And then regroup and subtract. $12 plus 8 and 5/10. For this one, I'm going to make a 10. So I have 10 here, 20.5. Erase this so we have room to solve this one. 106.39. 106 and 39 hundredths minus 9 and 5/10. Ask Decimal Dog to spit one out. And then finally 300 minus 99.5. 300 minus 100 is 200. And I didn't subtract quite 100. So because I took away 50 cents more than I needed, I'm going to put that 50 cents back on the answer. So the answer is 200.5. Remember, when you add, when you subtract, your decimals must be lined up. The second verse to that song replaces the word add with subtract. This time you should sing it.